Hey there, welcome to Broaderos. Tonight, we've got hours of chilling horror stories combined with soothing rain sounds to help you relax and sleep. Before you drift off, leave a comment below and let us know where you're listening from and what time it is. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe right away. If you end up not enjoying it, you can always take it back later. Get cozy and let the fear take over. The prisoner of the basement. Have you ever stumbled upon something you were never meant to find? It's a question that haunts me now, echoing in the dim recesses of my mind. My name is Ethan, and what began as a typical afternoon turned into a nightmare, one that I never could have anticipated. It was a gray day when I first noticed it. I had recently inherited my grandmother's old house, a creaky structure nestled at the edge of town, surrounded by towering oaks that whispered secrets to the wind. The house, while charming in its own way, had an unsettling air about it. The peeling wallpaper, the dusty corners, and the strange noises in the night gave me an ever-present sense of unease. I often found myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone or something watching me. As I explored the house, each room held remnants of the past, faded photographs, worn-out furniture, and a heavy silence that enveloped me. My grandmother had lived alone for years, and it felt as though the walls were absorbing the echoes of her solitude. I spent hours sifting through her belongings, piecing together fragments of her life, when I discovered a hidden door behind an old bookshelf in the library. The door was small and unassuming, almost camouflaged among the dusty tomes that lined the shelves. My heart raced as I pulled the door open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The air was cool and musty, filled with the scent of damp earth. I hesitated, a shiver crawling up my spine. But curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to descend into the unknown. I flicked on my phone's flashlight, the beam cutting through the inky blackness. As I took each step, the creaking wood beneath me echoed like a warning. The staircase seemed to stretch on forever, twisting down into the depths of the house. The further I went, the more I felt an unsettling presence surrounding me, as if I were being pulled into something that defied understanding. Finally, I reached the bottom. The space opened up into a small, dimly lit room, the walls lined with shelves that held jars of strange, forgotten objects. A heavy wooden table sat in the center, cluttered with papers that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. My heart raced as I scanned the room, a sense of dread washing over me. And then, in an instant, the door slammed shut behind me. I whipped around, panic surging through my veins as I jiggled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. My breath quickened, the reality of my situation sinking in. I was trapped, a prisoner in my own home. The fear enveloped me, and I stumbled back, my back hitting the cold wall. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, pounding like a war drum. My mind raced as I tried to process what was happening. I shouted for help, my voice echoing off the stone walls, but no one could hear me. The silence was suffocating, and the darkness seemed to grow heavier. As I stood there, dread tightening its grip around my throat, I began to notice something strange. I wasn't alone. A soft rustling came from the shadows, barely perceptible, yet unmistakable. I squinted into the darkness, my heart pounding harder with each passing second. Someone, or something, was watching me. The realization hit me like a cold wave. I had not just discovered a hidden space, I had awakened something buried deep within the confines of this house. And now, I was trapped, not only by the door but by the secrets that lay within the basement's depths. I forced myself to take a breath, but it felt like trying to inhale water. The darkness seemed to thicken around me, swallowing the light from my phone. I could hear that rustling again, more pronounced this time, accompanied by a soft whispering that sent chills down my spine. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but my feet felt like lead. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quivering. "Is someone there?" The whispering stopped abruptly, and an eerie silence followed, thickening the air. I strained to hear, but only my own breathing filled the room. I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. The shadows seemed to shift, almost as if they were alive, watching me with unseen eyes. I fumbled for the door, trying again to force it open, but it remained steadfast, refusing to yield. Panic set in. I was acutely aware of the vulnerability of my situation. Here I was, alone in a place that felt more like a tomb than a basement, with the oppressive weight of secrets pressing down on me. Then, I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. I turned my head quickly, heart racing, but all I saw was darkness. Just shadows dancing on the wall, I told myself, trying to rationalize my fear. But deep down, I knew that something was amiss. My mind raced back to the stories my grandmother used to tell, tales of the family's dark past, of those who had lived and died in this very house. I had brushed them off as mere folklore, ghost stories meant to frighten children. Yet here I was, trapped in the depths of that very legacy, feeling the weight of history pressing against me. I backed away from the door, my eyes scanning the room. Perhaps there was another way out. As I moved deeper into the basement, I stumbled upon a wooden crate covered in dust. My fingers traced over the surface, revealing intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. Curiosity overpowered fear for a moment as I pried it open. Inside lay a collection of old photographs and handwritten journals, their pages yellowed with age. I pulled out a journal and flipped it open, squinting in the dim light. The handwriting was shaky, almost frantic. It spoke of voices in the walls, of things that lurked in the shadows, sentences that sent a shudder through my body. "Help me," one entry read, scrawled in a jagged hand. "They are watching. I am not alone down here." A sudden crash echoed behind me, breaking my focus. I whirled around, heart racing as I pointed my flashlight towards the noise. The shadows seemed to flicker, and I swore I saw a figure darting just beyond the reach of my light. I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened, and I fought the urge to scream. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice rising in pitch, desperation clawing at my throat. But there was only silence, thick and oppressive. I glanced back at the journal, the words blurring as my mind spiraled. Had my grandmother known of this place? Had she experienced the same terror I now faced? The thought filled me with dread. Then, I felt it, a cold breeze, a whisper brushing against my ear, sending goosebumps cascading over my skin. It was as if the basement itself were alive, a living entity that pulsed with a malevolent energy. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to make myself small, a primal instinct taking over. I needed to escape, to find a way out. But as I turned to look for an exit, a figure materialized before me, emerging from the darkness. It was shrouded in shadows, its features indistinguishable, but I could feel its gaze boring into me, deep and penetrating. "Welcome," it whispered, the sound slithering through the air like smoke. "You've finally joined us." I staggered back, fear flooding my senses. I was no longer just a curious intruder. I had become a part of this sinister reality, a prisoner of the basement and whatever horrors it contained. The figure before me seemed to pulse with the shadows, an amalgamation of darkness and dread. My heart raced, each beat thundering in my ears as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. It stood motionless, but I felt an undeniable energy emanating from it, a sensation that twisted my stomach and set my teeth on edge. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. "Who I am doesn't matter," it replied, its voice smooth and cold like ice. "What matters is that you're here now. You've opened the door." I recoiled, pressing my back against the rough stone wall as the reality of my predicament crashed over me like a wave. I was trapped, and I had awakened something ancient and terrible. My mind raced, and I desperately searched for a way to escape this nightmarish encounter. "Let me go," I pleaded, my voice trembling. "I don't belong here. I just wanted to." "Wanted to what?" The figure interrupted, stepping closer, the shadows shifting around it. "Discover the truth? Uncover the secrets? You have no idea what you've unleashed." My breath quickened, panic clawing at my throat as I shook my head vigorously. "I just wanted to explore my grandmother's house. I didn't mean to intrude." "Your grandmother," it mused, tilting its head, its featureless face drawing closer. "She knew of this place. She was one of us." The word struck me like a physical blow. My grandmother? Had she been a part of whatever malevolent force resided down here? A chill coursed through my veins as I thought of the stories she told, the whispers that danced through the house when the wind blew just right. Was this the truth behind her reclusiveness, her reluctance to speak of her past? The figure moved closer still, and I felt the temperature drop, a bone-deep chill that stole my breath. "You should be afraid," it whispered, its voice wrapping around me like a serpent. "Fear is the only thing that keeps you alive down here." Before I could respond, the room trembled, the walls vibrating with an unseen force. I stumbled back, the journal slipping from my grasp and hitting the floor with a dull thud. I could feel the very foundation of the basement shifting, as if it were awakening from a long slumber, and the shadows began to swirl more violently. I had to get out. I turned to the door, but it loomed behind me like an impenetrable barrier. With every ounce of strength, I hurled my body against it, but it held firm. Desperation surged within me, and I screamed, a raw, primal sound that echoed through the basement. "Help! Someone, please!" The figure merely laughed, a low, mocking sound that sent tremors of fear through me. "No one can hear you down here, Ethan. You're completely alone." The shadows pulsed, shifting and curling around me like tendrils. I could feel the room closing in, suffocating me with an overwhelming sense of despair. I dropped to my knees, my hands clawing at the ground, searching for anything, any small hope to cling to. But then I remembered the journals. I glanced over at the scattered pages, flipping through them frantically, hoping to find something, anything, that could explain what was happening. My fingers trembled as I read snippets of desperate pleas and frantic scrawls that filled each page. Words of warnings mixed with tales of those who had come before me, each entry more frenzied than the last. "Do not trust the shadows," one entry read. "They will consume you." I looked back at the figure, its form flickering in the dim light. It appeared to be shifting, the shadows blending and separating like a grotesque marionette. I felt a knot form in my stomach as the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices overlapping each other, creating a dissonance that threatened to break my sanity. "Join us," it hissed, a twisted smile playing across its unseen features. "You belong with us now." "No!" I shouted, my voice breaking. "I won't become like you." With that defiance, I pushed myself to my feet, fueled by a surge of adrenaline. I rushed towards the wall opposite the door, desperately searching for any sign of an escape. My flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced and writhed along the stone. As I pressed my palm against the cold surface, I felt a small, jagged edge beneath my fingers, a crack. Hope surged within me. I began to dig, scratching at the wall with my nails, determined to find a way through. The whispers grew louder, the shadows around me thickening, trying to pull me back into their suffocating embrace. But I wouldn't let them win. I refused to be just another voice lost in the darkness. My heart pounded as I scraped at the crack in the wall, each stroke desperate and frantic. The whispers intensified, swirling around me, taunting me, each voice a reminder of my impending doom. I could feel their icy breath against my skin, an ethereal chill that sapped my strength. "Give in," the figure urged, its voice smooth and silken. "It's easier to let go. You'll find peace with us." I gritted my teeth, blocking out its words. I had to focus. As my fingers worked against the rough stone, I suddenly felt a shift in the wall, a slight give that sent a spark of hope through me. I pressed harder, feeling the jagged edge dig into my skin, but I didn't care. I needed to escape this nightmare. "Stop," the figure shouted, its voice rising with anger, but I was too far gone, lost in the singular focus of survival. I could hear the creaking of the basement settling around me, an ominous sound that threatened to engulf me entirely. The shadows lunged toward me, wrapping around my legs like tendrils of darkness, pulling me down. "No!" I cried out, pulling my knees to my chest and using my elbows to push against the cold stone. My nails bit into my palms, drawing blood, but I welcomed the pain. It grounded me, reminded me that I was alive, that I had to keep fighting. With a final shove, I pressed my shoulder against the wall, and to my astonishment, a section gave way, revealing a narrow opening. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I squeezed through, feeling the jagged edges of the stone scrape against my skin as I struggled to force my body into the unknown. The shadows roared in frustration, their whispers turning into a cacophony of rage as they lost their grip on me. I could feel them clawing at my legs, desperately trying to pull me back into the depths. But I wouldn't let them win. I finally tumbled through the opening and into a narrow tunnel, the dim light of my phone illuminating the walls that seemed to close in around me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I scrambled forward, driven by sheer instinct. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my heart raced as I crawled through the cramped space, the darkness swallowing me whole. The tunnel twisted and turned, and I had no idea where it led, but I didn't care. Each inch I moved felt like a victory against the suffocating despair that had gripped me. I was going to escape. But just as I thought I was free, the tunnel opened up into another room, even darker than the last. I paused, my heart pounding in my chest, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I turned the flashlight toward the walls, revealing what appeared to be more shelves filled with jars and odd relics, the same as the basement. I took a step inside, scanning the room. The air was thick with an unsettling energy, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me. Panic surged through me as I remembered the figure behind me. What if it followed me here? "Ethan," it called, the voice echoing through the shadows. "You can't run from your fate." I clutched the flashlight tighter, its beam trembling as I searched for a way out. In the corner, I noticed another door, slightly ajar. Hope surged within me as I rushed towards it, pushing the door open with trembling hands. As I stepped into the next room, I froze, my blood running cold. This space was unlike the others, walls lined with mirrors, reflecting my pale face back at me in a distorted, nightmarish way. The air felt heavy, laden with an oppressive dread that wrapped around me like a suffocating shroud. "Welcome to the reflection room," the figure whispered from behind me, its voice echoing as if it were coming from all directions. I spun around, but there was no one there. The mirrors seemed to ripple, and I could see fleeting images of myself, pale, hollow-eyed, trapped within the glass. What is this place? I gasped, my voice barely audible over the rising terror in my chest. A place of truth, it replied, the shadows swirling around me, making it hard to tell where the figure began and ended. A place where you will face the parts of yourself you have tried to bury. The mirrors began to warp, and I saw fragments of my past, moments I had buried deep within my mind. Faces of friends I had lost, arguments with my family, the overwhelming guilt of not being there for my grandmother in her final days. The reflections twisted and contorted, morphing into grotesque versions of my fears and regrets. Stop! I shouted, covering my eyes with my hands. But even with my eyes closed, I could hear the whispers, the laughter that mocked my pain. Face them, Ethan. Embrace your truth, the figure taunted, and I felt its presence closing in on me. No! I cried, my voice rising with desperation. I won't succumb to this. With every ounce of strength, I tore my gaze away from the mirrors, forcing myself to focus on the door I had come through. It was my only chance. I ran toward it, heart racing, but the shadows lashed out, swirling around my legs, attempting to pull me back. Join us, Ethan. You can't escape, the figure howled, its voice reverberating through the mirrored walls. I pushed forward, fighting against the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. I felt my heart pounding in my ears, a fierce rhythm that fueled my determination. I could not give in. I would not allow this place to claim me. With a final surge of adrenaline, I burst through the door, slamming it behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for breath, trying to collect myself. The whispers faded into the distance, but I knew I wasn't safe yet. In the silence that followed, I glanced around. The room I entered was smaller, a simple storage space filled with dusty boxes and old furniture. There was no sign of the figure or the mirrors, but I could still feel the weight of its presence looming close. I had to keep moving. There had to be a way out. I stepped carefully around the boxes, searching for any sign of an exit. The air was thick with dust, and I could taste the mustiness of long-forgotten memories. I suddenly stopped as a strange noise echoed from behind me, a soft thump, followed by a scuttling sound. I turned, heart racing, ready to flee, but instead found myself face to face with a dusty old trunk in the corner of the room. My curiosity piqued, I approached it cautiously. The trunk was locked, but I could see a faint glimmer of something inside. I knelt before it, running my fingers over the worn surface. Perhaps there was something in there that could help me escape this place. But as I worked to pry it open, the air around me grew colder, and I felt a chill creeping down my spine. Suddenly, the trunk sprang open, and I fell back in shock. Inside lay a collection of objects, old toys, photographs, and a doll that seemed to stare right at me with lifeless eyes. Among the items, a small, tarnished key caught my eye. I grasped it tightly, hope igniting within me. This could be the key to my escape. But before I could react, the shadows rushed back, coiling around my ankles and pulling me down. No! I screamed, clutching the key in my hand as I fought against the encroaching darkness. The figure re-emerged from the shadows, its laughter echoing like a death knell. You can't escape the truth, Ethan. You will always belong to us. With a final desperate push, I forced myself upright, the key clutched tightly in my hand. I darted past the swirling shadows, heading for the only exit I could see, the door at the far end of the room. Let me go! I shouted, and the shadows shrieked in frustration as I lunged for the door, fumbling to turn the knob. It turned easily, and I burst through, slamming it shut behind me, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. I found myself in a narrow hallway lined with flickering lights. Ahead lay a set of stairs spiraling upward. I could feel the oppressive weight of the basement behind me, but I forced myself to move forward. I had to escape. I had to find a way out before it was too late. The staircase spiraled upward, the air growing stale as I ascended. Each step felt heavy, as if the weight of the darkness below was pulling me back. I could still hear the whispers echoing in my mind, the shadows clawing at the edges of my thoughts, but I pressed on, driven by sheer determination. As I climbed, the flickering lights overhead cast strange shadows on the walls, creating fleeting images that danced and shifted with my movement. I focused on the stairs, forcing my mind to stay present. I needed to escape the nightmare that had gripped me since I discovered that hidden door. The steps creaked under my weight, the sound echoing in the silence, a constant reminder of my isolation. I felt the cold air biting at my skin, and my breath quickened, each inhale laced with fear. I could almost feel the presence of the figure behind me, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment I faltered. But I wouldn't give in. I reached the top of the staircase, panting, and pushed through a heavy door. It swung open with a groan, revealing a dimly lit hallway. The walls were lined with faded portraits that seemed to watch me as I stepped inside, their eyes following my every move. I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Ethan," a voice called, soft yet insistent. I froze, my heart racing. Was it the figure? Had it followed me here? I turned, ready to confront whatever horror waited, but there was no one there. Only the echo of my name hung in the air, reverberating through the hall. "Is anyone there?" I called, my voice trembling as I scanned the room. Silence answered, thick and oppressive, wrapping around me like a shroud. I took a cautious step forward, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight. I had to keep moving. There was no other choice. I needed to find an exit. The hallway extended before me, dark and foreboding. I glanced at the portraits, trying to shake off the unease they instilled in me. They depicted stern-faced figures in elaborate frames, their expressions unsettling and solemn. I couldn't help but feel as though they held secrets, histories long forgotten, and perhaps something more sinister. As I walked, the air grew thicker, a sense of dread pooling in my stomach. I could almost hear whispers weaving through the walls, their hushed tones barely discernible but laced with malice. I quickened my pace, desperate to find a way out of this labyrinthine nightmare. At the end of the hallway, I spotted another door, this one adorned with intricate carvings that twisted and spiraled like vines. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding as I placed my hand on the cool surface. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The room beyond was vast, filled with shelves that reached to the ceiling, crammed with dusty books and odd trinkets. An old desk sat in the center, covered in yellow papers and artifacts that seemed to pulse with a strange energy. As I stepped inside, a sense of familiarity washed over me, like I had stumbled upon a forgotten part of my own history. The air hummed with a tension that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I felt drawn to the desk, compelled to examine its contents. I moved toward it, skimming my fingers over the papers. The writing was frenzied. Scribbled in the margins were frantic notes about rituals and warnings. The words danced before my eyes, snippets of despair and fear that mirrored my own thoughts. "Do not engage with the darkness," one note read. "It feeds on your fears. It is not what it seems." I shuddered, clutching the key tightly in my pocket, remembering the trunk I had found earlier. What if there was something there that could help me understand this darkness? My resolve strengthened. I needed to find a way to confront it, to unravel the truth hidden in the shadows. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, sending a chill down my spine. The lights flickered, and I glanced around, the shadows stretching ominously along the walls. "Ethan," the voice echoed again, louder this time, resonating with an otherworldly quality. "You cannot escape your destiny." I whirled around, heart racing, searching for the source. The room felt alive, the air thick with anticipation. I could feel the figure closing in, its presence suffocating. "No!" I shouted, my voice trembling. "I won't let you take me." But the shadows lunged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching out to wrap around me. Panic surged within me, and I dove behind the desk, trying to shield myself from the encroaching gloom. "Face me, Ethan. Accept what you are," the voice boomed, the room vibrating with its intensity. In that moment, I remembered the key. I fumbled for it, pulling it from my pocket. There had to be a way to use it, a means to confront whatever awaited me. I glanced around frantically, searching for something, anything, that could help me. Then I noticed a small, locked cabinet at the back of the room, its surface adorned with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. My heart raced as I dashed toward it, praying the key would fit. As I reached the cabinet, I inserted the key, my hand shaking with anticipation. It clicked, and I swung the door open, revealing a small collection of objects, an amulet that shimmered with a soft light, a dagger that glinted menacingly, and an old photograph. I picked up the photograph, my breath catching in my throat. It was a picture of my grandmother, younger and full of life, standing in front of the very house I had come to know. But beside her stood a figure shrouded in darkness, a shadow that seemed to ripple as I gazed at it. "No," I whispered, a chill creeping into my bones. The figure was watching her, its eyes gleaming with an insatiable hunger. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as the reality settled in. My grandmother had known this darkness, had been a part of it. "Ethan." The voice rang out, closer now, the shadows swirling around me, encasing me in their grip. I clutched the amulet, feeling its warmth pulse against my palm. Perhaps it could help me, protect me from the darkness that threatened to consume me. I slipped it around my neck and held the dagger tightly, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. "Come out, then," I shouted, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "I'm not afraid of you." The shadows receded for a moment, the figure materializing before me, its form coalescing into a twisted, grotesque visage. It grinned, its features shifting and distorting as it stepped closer. "You think you can challenge me?" it hissed, the voice a dissonance of anger and amusement. "You are nothing but a lost child, and you will never escape." "I will find a way," I retorted, brandishing the dagger in front of me. "I won't let you take me like you did her." The figure recoiled slightly, its laughter echoing through the room. "Ah, the girl. She was strong once, but look where it got her." "No," I shouted, my voice breaking. "You're lying." "Am I?" it replied, its voice dripping with malice. "You know the truth. You are bound to this darkness, just as she was. You belong to it, Ethan. You always have." I felt the weight of its words, the truth they carried, but I refused to accept it. "No. I will break this cycle." With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged forward, the dagger aimed at the figure. It laughed again, the sound reverberating off the walls, but I didn't hesitate. I could feel the energy of the amulet pulsing with power, fueling my resolve. As I thrust the dagger forward, the figure dissolved into shadows, and I stumbled as it flickered around me. I swung wildly, desperate to find my target, my heart racing with every beat. "Face your fears, Ethan," it howled, the shadows swirling around me like a tempest. "You can't escape who you are." But I wouldn't falter. I wouldn't let it consume me. I closed my eyes, grounding myself in the moment, focusing on the warmth of the amulet against my chest. With a final push, I swung the dagger again, my voice rising in defiance. "I am not yours to claim." The shadows roared, swirling around me in a furious vortex. I could feel the darkness clawing at my skin, but I stood my ground, the amulet glowing brighter as it pushed back against the encroaching gloom. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the shadows retreated, the figure shrieking as it dissolved into nothingness. The room fell silent, and I stood there, breathless, trembling with adrenaline and disbelief. I had fought it off. For now. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. I could still feel the lingering presence of the darkness, the echoes of its whispers in my mind. I had survived this encounter, but I was still trapped in this nightmare. With renewed determination, I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. I had to keep moving, had to find a way to escape this house and the horrors that awaited me within. I turned toward the door at the far end of the room, ready to face whatever lay ahead. I pushed through the door, stepping back into the hallway. The atmosphere felt different now, charged with a strange energy. The air was thick with tension, and I could sense that the darkness was still lurking, watching from the shadows. The amulet around my neck pulsed gently against my chest, a small reminder of the power I had discovered. I moved forward cautiously, my heart pounding with every step. The echoes of my earlier confrontation replayed in my mind, the words of that twisted figure lingering like a bitter taste on my tongue. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted, that the very walls of this house were closing in on me. I needed to find a way out, to escape this nightmare that had become my reality. As I made my way down the dimly lit hallway, I noticed a door at the end that stood slightly ajar. A faint light seeped through the crack, beckoning me closer. My instincts screamed at me to avoid it, but my curiosity pushed me forward. What if there was something inside that could help me? I approached the door, each footstep echoing in the silence. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. The room was small, filled with a warm, flickering light that felt like a sanctuary compared to the darkness that had enveloped me. A single candle burned on a small table in the center, casting a soft glow that danced along the walls. Surrounding the table were various objects, crystals, herbs, and jars filled with strange liquids. It looked like a place of ritual, a sanctuary of sorts. I stepped inside, my eyes drawn to a large book lying open on the table. Its pages were filled with intricate symbols and notes, the writing elegant and fluid. It felt familiar, like something I had seen before. I moved closer, my heart racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. As I studied the pages, I recognized the symbols from the cabinet I had opened earlier. This was a guide, a manual of sorts, detailing the rituals of protection and the ancient methods to confront the darkness that plagued my family for generations. "Ethan," a voice whispered, pulling me from my thoughts. I turned, my heart racing, but the room was empty. Only the candle flickered in response, its flame casting eerie shadows on the walls. I shook my head, trying to dispel the fear that was creeping back in. I had to focus. I needed to learn from this book. I began to flip through the pages, desperate to find anything that might help me confront the darkness that threatened my life. As I read, I discovered a ritual designed to bind the entity, to trap it within the house itself, but it required specific items: the dagger, a personal object, and a chant that resonated with one's true self. I glanced at the dagger in my hand, feeling the weight of it. It was a tool of both protection and danger, and I knew I needed to use it wisely. The personal object would have to be something deeply significant, something that connected me to my past. My mind raced back to the trunk in the basement, the one I had stumbled upon earlier. There had to be something inside that would fulfill that requirement. But would it be enough to confront the darkness? The room began to dim, the shadows creeping back toward me as if sensing my resolve. I looked at the candle, its light flickering in protest. I needed to act quickly. I had to return to the basement and find that trunk. With a newfound sense of urgency, I dashed from the room, retracing my steps down the hallway. As I moved, the walls seemed to close in, the atmosphere thickening with every passing moment. The whispers returned, a cacophony of voices taunting me, reminding me of the danger I faced. "Ethan, you cannot escape," they cried, echoing in the recesses of my mind. I pushed through the door leading back to the basement, my heart racing. The air was cooler here, and the dim light from the single bulb overhead cast long shadows that danced along the walls. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing in around me, but I pressed on. I rushed to the corner where I had first discovered the trunk, my fingers trembling with anticipation as I lifted the lid. Inside lay a collection of objects from my childhood, old toys, photos, and mementos. But I needed something more potent, something that would resonate deeply with my essence. I dug through the items, searching for that connection. Then, my fingers brushed against something cool and metallic. I pulled out a silver locket, its surface etched with intricate designs. It had belonged to my grandmother, a cherished keepsake that I remembered her wearing every day. I held it tightly in my hand, the warmth of the amulet still pulsing against my chest. This was it, the object I needed for the ritual. Suddenly, I heard a low growl echo through the basement, sending chills racing down my spine. The darkness was closing in on me again. "Ethan," the voice cried, more menacing this time. "You cannot defy your fate." I froze, paralyzed by fear as I felt the temperature drop, the shadows shifting like living beings around me. I couldn't stay here. I had to complete the ritual. I scrambled back to the main room, the trunk still clutched in one hand and the locket in the other. As I entered the dimly lit space, I could feel the tension building, the air charged with anticipation. "Show yourself," I shouted, my voice trembling. "I'm ready to face you." The shadows coalesced before me, the figure materializing from the darkness with a snarl, its eyes glowing like embers in the night. "You think a trinket will save you?" it hissed, the air crackling with its fury. I gripped the dagger tightly, the locket resting against my palm. "I know who I am. I know my strength." The figure laughed, a sound that chilled me to the bone. "You are nothing but a child, playing at power. You will never escape." But I wouldn't let fear consume me. I set the trunk down and moved to the center of the room, drawing upon the strength I had found within myself. I positioned the locket and dagger before me, closing my eyes as I focused on the ritual I had read about. "By the bonds of blood and spirit, I call upon the light to bind you," I chanted, my voice growing stronger with every word. "By the memories of those who came before me, I bind you to this place." The shadows surged forward, their darkness wrapping around me, but I stood firm, channeling the energy of the amulet, letting it guide me. "Reveal your true form," I cried, thrusting the dagger forward. The figure let out a howl of rage, the shadows whipping around me in a frenzy. but I could feel the warmth of the light radiating from the amulet, pushing back against the darkness. Let my ancestors' strength protect me. Let their courage flow through me. With each chant, the shadows retreated, the figure becoming more defined, its form twisting and writhing in agony as the light pushed against it. I could see the fear in its eyes, and for the first time, I felt a surge of hope. Bind to this place, I shouted, thrusting the dagger forward with all my might. The blade pierced through the darkness, and with it came a blinding light that illuminated the room. I felt the shadows recoil, their grip on me loosening as the figure screamed in defiance. And oh, it shrieked, the darkness twisting and spiraling around me, but I held my ground, the power of the amulet fueling my resolve. With a final cry, I focused all my energy on the dagger, channeling my thoughts, my fears, and my strength into that single moment. Be gone, I commanded, and the light surged forward, consuming the darkness in a brilliant explosion. The figure wailed, its form disintegrating into nothingness as the shadows faded, leaving me standing in the center of the room, breathless and trembling. I had done it. I had confronted the darkness and pushed it back, but the victory felt bittersweet. The weight of my grandmother's locket in my palm reminded me of the price of this battle. But I was still here, still alive. As I stood there, surrounded by the remnants of my confrontation, I knew this was not the end. I would carry the scars of this night with me, but I had faced the darkness and survived. Now, I just had to find a way to escape this house and leave the memories behind. The room fell silent, the echoes of the battle fading into a haunting stillness. The glow from the amulet warmed my chest, a gentle reminder of my victory. Yet, a sense of dread lingered, a whisper that warned me the darkness could return. I had pushed it back, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was not truly gone. I took a moment to catch my breath, my heart still racing from the confrontation. The remnants of the shadows lingered in the corners of the room, a reminder of the malevolence I had faced. I needed to leave this house and never look back. I turned and made my way toward the stairs, the weight of the trunk still heavy in my hands. The air felt lighter now, but the shadows still cast an uneasy presence, urging me to move faster. As I ascended the stairs, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the old, dusty mirror hanging on the wall. My face was pale, eyes wide with the remnants of fear, and I could see the shadows lingering behind me. I shook my head, trying to dispel the vision, but I knew deep down that the darkness would haunt me, even if I escaped. Reaching the front door, I paused for a moment, taking in the familiar surroundings of my home. The walls seemed to breathe, the floors creaked beneath my feet, as if the house itself was alive, aware of my actions. But I couldn't let fear hold me back now. I had faced the darkness. I could face whatever lay ahead. I grasped the doorknob, twisting it slowly, and pushed against the door. It creaked open, revealing the cool night air outside. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery light across the yard, and the world outside felt like a distant dream, a reality I longed to return to. But just as I stepped outside, a cold wind swept through, carrying with it a familiar, unsettling whisper. "You think you've won?" The voice echoed, a taunting reminder that the darkness was still watching, lurking just out of sight. I shivered, feeling the weight of those words pressing against my chest. No, I wouldn't let it intimidate me. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the moment, focusing on the cool air filling my lungs. I turned to take one last look at the house, its silhouette framed by the moonlight. It stood there, a dark monolith against the night sky, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of loss. This place had been my home, but it had also been a prison, a vessel for the darkness that had haunted my family for generations. "Goodbye," I whispered, turning away and heading down the path that led to freedom. As I walked, I felt the amulet's warmth fading, its light dimming with each step I took away from the house. I clutched the locket tightly in my hand, knowing it would be a reminder of the battle I had fought and the strength I had found within myself. The cool grass beneath my feet felt comforting, and I quickened my pace, eager to leave the memories behind. I reached the edge of the property, glancing back one last time at the house. It loomed in the darkness, a haunting presence that would forever remain a part of my past. Just as I was about to turn away, I noticed a figure standing in the shadows by the front door. My breath caught in my throat as I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out the shape. It was just a silhouette, but I could feel its gaze piercing through the night, locking onto me with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. "Ethan," the voice called again, a sickly sweet tone that wrapped around my heart. It was familiar yet twisted, a mockery of the love I once knew. "You can't leave me. We are connected." "No," I shouted, the word bursting forth with a force I didn't know I possessed. "I'm done being a prisoner." I took off running, the pounding of my heart matching the rhythm of my feet against the earth. I could feel the shadows chasing after me, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. "You belong here. You cannot escape your fate." But I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't allow myself to be consumed by the darkness again. With every step I took, I channeled my fear into determination, pushing myself forward into the unknown. I broke free from the confines of the property, the weight of the past lifting as I stepped onto the road. The stars twinkled overhead, a canopy of light guiding my way. The world felt vast and open, filled with possibilities I had almost forgotten. But as I ran, the shadows danced at the edges of my vision, a reminder that I couldn't truly escape the past. I could feel the darkness clinging to me, trying to pull me back into its grasp. I picked up my pace, heart racing as I sprinted toward the distant lights of the town. Each step felt like a small victory, a testament to my resilience. The night air was cool against my skin, a balm to the fear that had gripped me for so long. Just as I reached the edge of town, the whispers surged, filling my mind with a cacophony of voices, each one urging me to turn back. "You cannot escape what is inside you." But I pressed on, tears streaming down my cheeks, a mixture of relief and terror flooding my heart. I could feel the warmth of the locket against my palm, a promise of hope. I had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, but I knew this battle was far from over. I glanced back one last time, the house now just a shadow against the horizon. A part of me felt a profound sadness for the loss of my childhood home, but I also felt a sense of liberation. I was free from its grasp, free to forge my own path. With renewed determination, I moved forward into the light of the town, ready to reclaim my life and face whatever challenges lay ahead. The darkness may have tried to bind me, but I had found my strength. I was no longer a prisoner, I was a survivor. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the horizon, I took a deep breath, ready to embrace the new dawn. The journey was just beginning, and though I would carry the scars of the past, I would not let them define me. I had fought the darkness and won, and now I would find my way home one step at a time. The room with candles. Have you ever found yourself in a place that felt both familiar and foreign? A room that echoes with memories yet is steeped in an unsettling silence? That was how I felt when I stepped into the dimly lit room at the end of my grandmother's house. It was an odd space, filled with dust and shadows, where time seemed to stand still. The air was heavy with the scent of aged wood and something else, something I could not quite place. I remember it vividly, the flickering light from a solitary candle on the old oak table, illuminating the walls adorned with faded photographs. Each face in those frames wore a smile, but I felt a chill as their eyes seemed to follow me, beckoning me closer. As I moved further into the room, I noticed the other candles scattered about, their wax drippings forming strange shapes on the surface below. What if I light them? I thought, a curious impulse creeping over me. But the idea of setting fire to the room filled me with trepidation. What lay beneath the soft glow of their flames? Would they reveal secrets hidden within the fabric of my family's past? A sudden draft brushed against my skin, as if urging me to act. I hesitated, wrestling with the fear that churned in my stomach. I had always felt a strange connection to this house, a place where my childhood memories danced with shadows. Yet, it had become a refuge for darker things, a nexus of whispers echoing through the hallways while I was alone. I moved toward the candle at the center of the table, its flame trembling as I struck a match. The flicker expanded into a warm glow, and as the wick caught fire, I felt a pulse of energy course through the room. My heart raced with anticipation, a thrill mingled with dread. Suddenly, the shadows deepened, twisting into forms that danced on the periphery of my vision. It was then I realized each candle held the potential to unlock a hidden truth about my life, truths I might not be ready to confront. Would I be brave enough to light them all, to face what lay within? In that moment, as the first candle flickered and settled into a steady flame, I felt an unsettling pull toward the unknown. The air shifted, heavy with unspoken words, and I was left wondering, what secrets would the light unveil? As I sat there, bathed in the golden hue of the candlelight, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. A presence lingered, watching, waiting for the moment I would delve deeper into my past. I took a deep breath and made my choice. With the first candle flickering softly before me, I was drawn into its glow, the world outside fading into a distant memory. My heart raced, and I felt a strange compulsion to reach for the next candle, its waxy surface cool and inviting. I leaned forward, letting the warm light caress my skin, a paradoxical comfort amidst my unease. As I lit the second candle, a shiver coursed through the room, and the shadows around me seemed to deepen. The flame danced, illuminating a small alcove to my left. In the glow, I saw a mirror, its glass tarnished with age. I couldn't remember ever noticing it before. Its frame was ornate, crafted with intricate designs that resembled twisting vines. The reflections twisted and contorted, not just showing my face, but a glimpse of something else, figures flitting just out of sight, like memories caught in the periphery of my consciousness. Am I losing my mind? I whispered to the empty room, half hoping for a response. The silence hung thick, pressing down on me, and I felt the weight of secrets, both my own and those of my ancestors. With every candle I lit, the air grew denser, charged with an electricity that set my nerves on edge. The third candle, taller than the rest, yielded a golden flame that cast long shadows across the walls. I felt a pull to the photographs again, their smiling faces now seeming more sinister under the flickering light. I stood to inspect them more closely. One photograph in particular drew my attention, my grandmother standing proudly next to a man I barely recognized. His smile was wide, but his eyes were clouded with something I could not name. As I leaned in, the room grew colder, and a shiver ran down my spine. "Who are you?" I asked, looking back at the flickering flames, as if they could answer. But only the silence met me, punctuated by the soft crackle of burning wax. The fourth candle lit with an audible sigh, and as its light filled the room, I saw it, an old journal lying forgotten on the table. Its leather cover was cracked, and the pages appeared yellowed with age. Curiosity gnawed at me, and I reached for it. My fingers brushed against the cool surface, and I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of generations pressing upon me. I opened the journal, and the scent of old paper wafted into the air, mingling with the candle's aroma. The ink was faded, but the words leapt off the page, vivid and urgent. Secrets have a way of finding their way to the light. Beware the shadows that linger in the corners of your mind. Chills danced down my arms as I read those lines. It felt like a warning, a precursor to something dark lurking just beyond the flickering candles. I flipped through the pages, revealing more cryptic messages, dreams written in trembling handwriting. It felt as if my grandmother had poured her soul into those pages, and each word echoed with unspoken fears. Suddenly, the room darkened, the light from the candles flickering violently as if caught in a tempest. I glanced around, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. The mirror reflected not just my image, but shadows that flickered and twisted, reaching toward me, almost as if they were alive. Panic surged through me as I extinguished the flame of the fourth candle, the light plunging the room into near darkness. My breath quickened, and I was left in the stillness, feeling more isolated than ever. But I knew I couldn't stop now. The shadows whispered secrets that begged to be uncovered, and I felt an irresistible draw to the final candle, its presence now a beacon in the darkness. With trembling hands, I ignited the last candle. As its light burst forth, a wave of warmth enveloped me, and the whispers grew louder. Face your fears. The truth awaits. The shadows danced around me, urging me to confront the darkness I had kept buried for too long. I was at the precipice, teetering on the edge of revelation. And yet, the weight of the moment pressed down upon me, filling me with both anticipation and dread. The final candle blazed brightly, casting long, flickering shadows that seemed to reach for me like lost souls yearning for liberation. My heart thudded loudly in my chest as I peered deeper into the glow, trying to see what lay beyond the shadows. Each flicker of the flame revealed glimpses of my past, moments I had buried and tried to forget. The journal lay open on the table, pages fluttering as though stirred by an unseen breeze. It beckoned me to continue reading, to unravel the threads of my family's history that had woven a tapestry of secrets. I couldn't resist. I leaned closer, my eyes scanning the scrawled words. The night the candles were lit, the truths shall awaken. I found the key in my dreams, where the shadows whispered of things best left undisturbed. But curiosity, like fire, is a dangerous thing. A chill ran through me as I recalled the stories my grandmother used to tell, tales of dark family secrets hidden beneath layers of smiles and laughter. I had always dismissed them as mere folklore, but now they felt like warnings echoing through time. The air around me thickened, and a heavy presence settled in the room, as if the very walls were alive, listening to my thoughts. I flipped to the next page, heart racing. It detailed her dreams, visions of shadowy figures watching from the corners of her mind. My pulse quickened as I realized I was experiencing something similar. I glanced toward the mirror again, and for a brief moment, I swore I saw figures standing just behind me, cloaked in shadow. Panic surged through me, and I turned quickly, only to find the room empty. The shadows are not just memories, they are protectors and predators, I read aloud, my voice barely a whisper in the heavy silence. You must confront them to break the cycle. Confront them. The words echoed in my mind, urging me to face whatever lay hidden in the dark corners of my memory. I felt an inexplicable pull toward the mirror, as if it held the answers to my questions, the key to my family's secrets. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and approached the mirror. The candlelight shimmered across the glass, and I hesitated, my reflection warping slightly. I placed my hand against the cool surface, feeling a strange vibration pulse beneath my fingertips. "Who are you?" I murmured, my voice trembling. The flame of the candle flickered violently, casting distorted reflections of myself and the room around me. The shadows swirled, coiling like tendrils, and I felt the air grow colder. I closed my eyes, heart pounding, and let myself be enveloped by the darkness. In that moment, memories surged forth, fragments of my childhood, pieces of a puzzle I had never known I was trying to solve. I remembered the sound of my grandmother's voice, soothing yet filled with an urgency that haunted my dreams. She would warn me about the things that watch from the shadows, but I had always laughed it off. I was just a child, after all. But now, as the candlelight flickered and the shadows loomed closer, I felt the weight of her words. "You must never let them in," she had said, her voice echoing in my mind. "They thrive on fear and will take what they can from you." I opened my eyes, staring into the mirror as if searching for something or someone. And then I saw it. A face, not my own, lurking behind my reflection, its features indistinct but its presence undeniable. The candlelight danced wildly, and the figure grew clearer, its eyes hollow, devoid of warmth. A shiver ran through me, and I stepped back, the weight of fear settling like a stone in my stomach. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice whispered, soft yet chilling, seeming to come from the shadows themselves. I stumbled back, heart racing, desperately trying to comprehend what I was seeing. The candle flickered dangerously, and I knew I had only one choice. I had to confront whatever lay before me, whatever darkness had woven itself into my family's past. With a deep breath, I returned to the mirror, forcing myself to look deep into the glass. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "To show you the truth," the figure replied, its voice a haunting echo that sent chills down my spine. "The truth you have hidden away." I hesitated, knowing that this could lead me down a path I might not return from. But there was a flicker of hope buried within my fear, a hope that perhaps understanding my past could free me from the shadows that had haunted me for so long. As the last candle's flame flickered dangerously, I took a step forward, drawn into the depths of the mirror, ready to face whatever awaited me. As I stepped closer to the mirror, the world around me began to dissolve. The candlelight flickered and dimmed, and the shadows stretched and curled like smoke, consuming the familiar room until I stood alone in darkness. The presence beside me grew, wrapping around me like a shroud, and I felt an overwhelming mix of fear and curiosity. "Welcome," the voice whispered, echoing softly in the void. "You have sought the truth, and now you shall see." I could barely breathe, my heart racing as the darkness thickened, swirling around me like a living entity. Just when I thought I might drown in the shadows, a bright light pierced the void, illuminating my surroundings. I found myself standing in an expansive, dimly lit hallway, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. The walls were lined with portraits, their eyes watching me with a knowing gaze. I could see my ancestors, each face etched with stories and secrets, emotions frozen in time. Among them, I spotted my grandmother, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "This is where the truth resides," the voice murmured, drawing my attention to a door at the end of the hallway. Its surface was aged, the wood darkened and warped as if it had been untouched for years. I took a cautious step forward, each footfall echoing ominously in the stillness. The air was charged with energy, as if the very walls were alive, whispering secrets too terrifying to comprehend. I felt a strong pull toward that door, an inexplicable urge to uncover what lay beyond it. With trembling hands, I grasped the doorknob. It felt cold, almost alive beneath my fingers. As I turned it slowly, the door creaked open, revealing a room bathed in an eerie, silver light. Inside, the flickering flames of countless candles danced in unison, casting shadows that morphed and twisted against the walls. The scent of burning wax mixed with something sweet yet suffocating, like the air after a summer storm. In the center of the room stood a table adorned with candles of all shapes and sizes. Each one flickered gently, calling to me with an allure I couldn't resist. My eyes drifted to a larger candle, standing alone on the table. Its surface was engraved with strange symbols that seemed to pulsate with life. "Light it," the voice urged, softer now, almost coaxing. "It will reveal the secrets that bind you." Despite the fear that gnawed at me, I felt drawn to the candle. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and struck a match. As the flame ignited, a surge of warmth enveloped me, and the candle's light exploded, illuminating the room in brilliant golden hues. The symbols on the candle began to glow, casting intricate patterns of light across the walls. I could hear a faint melody, a haunting lullaby that tugged at my heartstrings. As the light grew brighter, visions danced before my eyes, snippets of memories intertwined with the shadows. I saw my grandmother, her face lined with worry, sitting at the kitchen table with the journal open before her. "We must not forget," she murmured to herself, a tear tracing down her cheek. I felt the weight of her anguish as if it were my own. Then, the scene shifted, revealing a dark figure lurking in the corner of the room, hidden beneath layers of shadow. The air grew thick with fear, and I realized that this figure was the source of my grandmother's distress. "They are watching," the voice echoed around me, wrapping me in its haunting embrace. "You must understand, the shadows are not mere memories, they are the manifestations of fears left unacknowledged." I shivered, grasping the meaning of those words. I had buried my past, my fears, hoping to escape their grasp. But they have remained, growing stronger in the darkness, waiting for the moment I would dare to confront them. Suddenly, the candle flickered violently, and the visions turned chaotic. Shadows writhed against the walls, and the figure in the corner began to emerge, taking form. I felt my breath quicken, panic rising in my chest. I had to know, who was this figure? What did it want from me? "Face the truth," the voice urged, a deep resonance filling the room. "It will set you free." I fought against the rising tide of fear and stepped closer to the flickering light. The shadows roiled around me, distorting the air with an electric charge. "What are you?" I called out, my voice echoing in the dim room. The figure shifted, its form becoming clearer, revealing a familiar face, my own. I gasped, stepping back as the realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. This was not just any shadow, it was the embodiment of my fears, my insecurities, the parts of myself I had hidden away. "You cannot escape me," the shadow whispered, its voice a twisted echo of my own. "I am the truth you fear to acknowledge." The shadow stood before me, a reflection of my inner turmoil. I felt a wave of despair wash over me, threatening to pull me under. "Why are you here?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to see," the shadow replied, its voice hauntingly familiar. "You've run from me for too long, burying your fears and memories beneath layers of denial. But I am the truth you must confront." As I stood frozen, caught between fear and understanding, I felt the walls around me pulse with energy. The flickering candles cast ominous shadows that danced, warping the very fabric of reality. Memories crashed over me like waves, pulling me deeper into a past I had tried so hard to forget. I saw glimpses of my childhood, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family gatherings, but also the darker moments, the arguments, the tears, the overwhelming sense of isolation. Each memory weighed heavy, and I felt the pressure of regret crushing me. You cannot hide from the truth forever, the shadow continued, stepping closer, its features now indistinguishable from my own. What you refuse to acknowledge will always haunt you. No, I shouted, backing away. I've moved on. I'm not that person anymore. You can't escape me, it replied, voice low and steady. I am your past, your fears, and your pain. You cannot let me go until you understand. Desperation clawed at my insides. What do I need to understand? I asked, my voice cracking. What more do you want from me? The shadow hesitated, its form flickering in the candlelight. You must confront the memory that binds us, the moment you chose to forget. Images began to flood my mind, scenes I had buried deep within the recesses of my memory. I saw my grandmother's face, twisted in pain as she held me close. I heard her whispering a name that felt both familiar and foreign, Elena. Who is Elena? I asked, confusion gripping me. The shadow's expression softened, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of compassion. She was your sister, lost to the shadows long ago. You have carried the weight of her absence all your life. My heart raced as fragments of memory resurfaced, buried emotions threatening to overwhelm me. I remembered the night of the accident, the sirens, the chaos, the feeling of helplessness that had enveloped me. My parents had been shattered, their grief so deep that they had turned inward, leaving me to navigate the void alone. You never let yourself grieve, the shadow whispered, its voice now a mirror of my own pain. You buried her memory, afraid of the darkness that would consume you. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I stood frozen, the weight of grief threatening to crush me. I had always thought I was protecting myself by forgetting, but in reality, I had only imprisoned myself in a cycle of denial. I didn't want to feel that pain, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I thought it was easier to forget. But in forgetting, you have only strengthened the shadows, the figure said, stepping closer until I could feel its warmth. Embrace the pain, allow yourself to grieve. Only then can you free both yourself and me. The room grew silent, the flickering candles casting a soft glow around us. I realized that to move forward, I had to confront my fears head-on, to face the grief I had buried so deeply. It felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, the darkness beckoning me to leap. What if I can't? I whispered, fear coiling around my heart. What if it consumes me? You are stronger than you know, the shadow replied, its voice filled with a strange warmth. Embrace the pain, and it will guide you to the truth. You are not alone. I am a part of you, just as she is. It's time to remember, to honor her. With a shaky breath, I nodded, the tears continuing to fall as I took a step forward. Okay, I'll try. As I stepped closer to the shadow, the candles flickered wildly, casting an ethereal light. I could feel the walls pulsing around me, an echo of the emotions I had buried for so long. The warmth enveloped me, and suddenly, I was no longer in the candlelit room. Instead, I found myself standing in a familiar place, the backyard of my childhood home. The sun shone brightly overhead, and laughter rang out around me. I saw my younger self playing, my sister Elena running alongside me, her laughter a melody of joy that filled the air. I felt an ache in my chest as the memory unfolded, vivid and real. This is what you've forgotten, the shadow whispered, guiding me deeper into the memory. This was the last moment of happiness before everything changed. As I watched my younger self chase after a butterfly, I saw the moment it all unraveled. The laughter faded, replaced by the sound of screeching tires and shattering glass. I felt the world shift, time bending as the joyful memory twisted into darkness. The joyful laughter of children twisted into chaos, and I stood frozen as I watched my younger self turn towards the sound of the tires screeching. In an instant, the scene transformed, the bright colors of the day darkening, replaced by the stark reality of sirens wailing and shadows moving swiftly. The world around me blurred as I felt a cold grip of dread tighten in my chest. I was no longer just an observer. I was trapped in the moment, reliving the horror of that fateful day. I saw the panic etched on my mother's face, the disbelief in my father's eyes. I felt their grief wash over me like a tidal wave, pulling me into the depths of despair. "No," I whispered, shaking my head in denial. "I can't face this." But the shadow beside me pressed forward. "You must. You've buried this pain for too long. Acknowledge it, and you will find the strength to heal." As the memory unfolded, I was taken to the scene of the accident, the cold, sterile hospital room, the dim lights casting long shadows across the walls. My heart raced as I remembered standing by the window, looking out into the night, waiting for news that would never come. The weight of the loss settled over me like a heavy blanket, suffocating and relentless. Suddenly, a figure emerged in the shadows of the room, my sister, Elena. She appeared just as I remembered her, bright and full of life, with a smile that could light up even the darkest corners of my mind. "Why did you forget me?" she asked, her voice a haunting echo that cut through the silence. "I didn't want to feel the pain," I cried, the tears streaming down my face. "I thought if I forgot, it would go away." "But in forgetting, you lost a part of yourself," she replied, her eyes filled with sadness. "You can't move forward without me, without acknowledging what happened." I felt a wave of guilt crash over me, drowning me in remorse. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I should have remembered you." "It's not too late," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "You can honor me by embracing the memories we shared, by letting the love we had fill the void instead of the shadows." With her words, a warm light filled the room, illuminating the darkness that had clung to my heart for so long. I could feel Elena's presence wrapping around me, comforting and familiar. "Remember the joy, the laughter," she urged. "Let it guide you back to yourself." The shadows began to recede, their oppressive weight lifting as the memories of our shared moments flooded back. I saw us playing in the backyard, building forts, and chasing fireflies beneath the stars. I remembered her laughter and the way she always found magic in the mundane, transforming the ordinary into something extraordinary. "You can have that magic again," Elena whispered, her figure growing clearer. "You just need to believe that you are worthy of it." As the warmth enveloped me, I felt the shadows loosening their grip, the heaviness in my chest slowly lifting. I took a deep breath, allowing myself to fully embrace the memory. "I remember," I said, my voice steadying. "I remember you, and I will not forget again." With that acknowledgement, the darkness around me began to fade, replaced by a soft, golden light. The hospital room transformed back into the candlelit space where I had started, and the shadow that had once loomed beside me now stood before me, its form shifting until it resembled me once again. "You've taken the first step," the shadow said, its voice now a gentle echo of my own. "But the journey is far from over. There are still truths to uncover, still fears to face." "I'm ready," I replied, a newfound determination igniting within me. "I'll face whatever comes next." "Good," the shadow said, nodding. "But remember, the shadows will always be a part of you. It's how you choose to engage with them that will determine your path forward." As I looked around the candlelit room, I could feel the weight of my past transforming into a source of strength. The candles flickered softly, their light illuminating the path ahead. "Let's move on," I said, stepping forward with resolve. "Let's uncover the rest of the truth." The shadows smiled, and together we approached the table where the remaining candles stood waiting. I could feel the energy pulsing around us, each candle representing a part of my story, a secret waiting to be unveiled. With a steady hand, I reached for another candle, ready to light it and reveal what lay hidden within the shadows of my life. As I grasped the next candle, a deep sense of anticipation surged through me. The engraved symbols glimmered under the flickering light, drawing me in. I struck the match, the flame igniting with a warm glow that filled the room. The moment the wax caught fire, a wave of energy surged through the air, and the shadows began to dance once more. The candlelight expanded, illuminating a new vision that began to unfold before me. The familiar dimness gave way to vibrant colors as scenes materialized, each more vivid than the last. I found myself in a different time and place, a family reunion in the backyard of my childhood home. Laughter rang out, and I watched as my family gathered around, the air filled with warmth and happiness. I saw my parents, their faces glowing with joy as they shared stories and embraced relatives I hadn't seen in years. But then, as if the warmth of the scene was being slowly siphoned away, I felt the darkness creeping in, swirling around the edges of this joyful memory. Suddenly, the scene shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by a heated argument. I stood at the fringes, watching my parents clash over something unspoken. Their voices grew louder, and I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine," my mother yelled, her voice trembling with emotion. "Elena is gone, and we're falling apart. We need to move on, for our sake and for her memory," my father replied, frustration lacing his words. "If we dwell on this, it will consume us." I felt the weight of their grief bearing down on me, each word striking like a knife. Their pain echoed through my own heart, a reminder of the loss we had all shared. It was too much to bear, and I instinctively turned away, retreating into the shadows of my mind. "You can't ignore this," the shadow beside me urged, its presence grounding me. "This is the moment you chose to turn away from your family, to hide from the truth." "I was just a child," I whispered, my voice filled with anguish. "I didn't know how to handle it. I thought they would be better if I stayed quiet." "But your silence only deepened the chasm between you," the shadow replied gently. "You need to see the impact of your choice. It's time to face the fracture." As the memory continued to unfold, I watched helplessly as my family grew increasingly distant. The reunions became less frequent, the laughter less vibrant. I saw my mother growing weary, her smile fading as she struggled to hold on to the pieces of her family. My father withdrew into his work, consumed by the need to escape the pain of loss. The warmth of the gathering faded, replaced by a chilling sense of isolation. The once vibrant backyard became a battleground of unspoken words and unresolved grief. I felt my heart breaking as the memories of love were replaced by the cold embrace of sorrow. "You can't carry this burden alone," the shadow whispered, drawing me closer to the unfolding scene. "You must share your pain, allow your family to support you in this darkness." But I was scared, I protested, tears streaming down my face. I didn't want to be a burden. I thought I was protecting them. "You were never a burden," the shadow insisted. "You were family. It's time to remember that. You can't heal what you refuse to confront." With that, the scene shifted again, plunging me into a moment I had long tried to forget, the day I found the journal that belonged to my grandmother. I stood in the dim light of her attic, dust motes dancing in the air, and saw the worn leather cover glimmering in the light. I reached for it, my fingers trembling. As I opened the journal, I was engulfed by the words written within. They spoke of grief and love, of memories cherished and lost. My grandmother had poured her heart into those pages, chronicling her journey through loss and healing. "You are not alone in your suffering," the shadow murmured, nudging me forward. "Your family has carried their grief as well. This journal is a testament to their pain and their love for you." As I read the words, I felt an overwhelming wave of connection surge through me. My grandmother had faced her own darkness, yet she had found the strength to reach out, to keep the memory of Elena alive through stories and love. I realized then that I had denied not just my pain, but the pain of my family as well. "It's time to reach out," the shadow urged gently. "To rebuild those connections, to share your truth." The memory began to dissolve, and I returned to the candlelit room, my heart pounding in my chest. The warmth of the candlelight surrounded me, and the shadow stood by my side, a reminder of the journey I had embarked upon. "You've taken another step," it said, its voice filled with encouragement. "But there's still more to uncover. One more candle remains, and it holds the final truth you must face." With renewed determination, I turned to the last candle on the table, the one that shimmered with an otherworldly light. Its flame flickered as if beckoning me closer. I reached for the match, my heart racing with anticipation. As the flame ignited and the candle blazed to life, the room around me shifted once more. As the last candle flickered to life, the room transformed around me, its warm glow morphing into a cold, desolate landscape. I found myself standing in a stark, barren place, the air thick with an oppressive silence that sent chills down my spine. The familiar warmth of the candlelit room had vanished, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. In the distance, a figure emerged, a dark silhouette against the bleak backdrop. As it approached, I realized with a jolt that it was my own reflection, distorted and twisted in the dim light. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, my heart pounding as the shadow of myself stepped forward. "So, you've come to confront me," it said, its voice a mocking echo of my own. "What do you hope to gain from this?" "I'm here to face my fears," I replied, my voice trembling with uncertainty. "I want to understand the darkness that has haunted me." "And what if that darkness consumes you?" the shadow taunted, a cruel smile creeping across its face. "You think you can handle the truth?" "I've already faced so much," I insisted, my voice gaining strength. "I know I can't hide anymore. I have to confront the pain and the loss." The shadow laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the desolation. "You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery won't save you from the truth. It will tear you apart." I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the fear that clawed at my insides. I've already felt that pain. I've lived with it every day. I can't let it control me any longer. With a flick of its wrist, the shadow conjured images from my past, the arguments between my parents, the empty family gatherings, the loneliness that had seeped into every corner of my life. Each image struck like a blow, the memories unfurling like dark tendrils reaching for me, ready to pull me under. "You think confronting these memories will free you?" the shadow sneered, stepping closer. "You will always be haunted by them. You will always carry the weight of your past." "Maybe," I replied, my voice firm. "But I will also carry the love that came with those memories. I will honor them, not let them drown me." The shadow paused, its expression shifting from mockery to curiosity. "You think love will save you?" "Love is just another form of pain." "It's a choice," I said, feeling the warmth of the candlelight pulsing around me. I choose to embrace the love I've lost, to remember the good times with Elena and my family. I choose to allow it to guide me, not to bind me. The shadow's expression darkened, and I could feel its anger radiating off of it like a heat wave. You think you can control me? You think you can dictate your own narrative? I can try, I declared, my resolve strengthening. I won't let you define me. I will face the pain, but I will not let it consume me. With those words, the landscape around us began to shift once more, the shadows retreating as light poured into the space. I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, filling the emptiness with warmth and hope. The oppressive silence was replaced by the sound of laughter and love echoing through the air. What's happening? The shadow spat, its form flickering and wavering in the light. You can't escape me. I'm not escaping, I'm transforming, I replied, a smile breaking across my face. I'm reclaiming my story. I am not just my grief, I am my love, my memories, and my strength. The light intensified, enveloping us both. I felt a sense of liberation wash over me, the chains of my past breaking apart. The shadows that had clung to me for so long began to dissolve, replaced by the vibrant energy of acceptance and healing. No, the shadow shrieked, its voice filled with desperation. You can't do this. You can't leave me behind. You are a part of me, I said softly. But you don't control me. I acknowledge you, but I won't let you overshadow my life. I choose to move forward with love, not fear. As I stepped into the light, the shadow began to dissipate, its form dissolving into the brightness. I felt the weight lifting from my shoulders, a sense of freedom enveloping me as I embraced the warmth of the candlelight. The world around me shimmered, and I found myself back in the candlelit room, the flickering flames illuminating my surroundings. The shadows had vanished, leaving behind a sense of peace I had never known before. You've done it, the gentle voice of the shadow echoed in my mind, now soft and comforting. You've faced the darkness and emerged stronger. I looked around the room, the candles glowing with a newfound brilliance. Thank you, I whispered, gratitude filling my heart. Thank you for helping me see the truth. The journey doesn't end here, the voice said, a reminder of the work still ahead. But you have the strength to face whatever comes next. Embrace your journey, and remember that you are never truly alone. With a deep breath, I reached out and extinguished the last candle, feeling a sense of completion wash over me. As the smoke curled into the air, I knew that I had faced the shadows of my past and emerged into the light, ready to embrace the future. As the last candle extinguished, a tranquil stillness enveloped the room, wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. The shadows that had haunted my existence melted away, leaving behind a profound sense of clarity and acceptance. I took a moment to breathe in the calmness, allowing the warmth of the candlelight to fill my heart. But in that stillness, a faint whisper echoed through my mind, a lingering reminder of the shadows that still lurked just beneath the surface. I closed my eyes, reflecting on the journey I had taken, the painful memories unearthed, the truth confronted, and the love reclaimed. Yet, I knew deep down that the path ahead would still be fraught with challenges. You've done well, the gentle voice returned, echoing the essence of the shadow that had guided me through the darkness. But remember, healing is a continuous journey. The past will always be a part of you, but it doesn't have to define you. I understand, I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. I will honor the memories of those I've lost, but I will not let them hold me captive any longer. As I opened my eyes, the room felt different, brighter, filled with possibilities. The candles, now fully melted, had left behind pools of wax that sparkled like stars scattered across the table. I felt a sense of purpose stirring within me, the kind that had been absent for far too long. I rose from my seat, a newfound strength propelling me forward. The door that had previously felt like a barrier now appeared inviting, a passage to the world outside where I could reclaim my life. As I approached it, the handle felt warm to the touch, pulsing with the energy of my decision to move forward. With a deep breath, I turned the handle and stepped outside. The sunlight bathed me in its glow, washing away the remnants of the darkness that had clung to me for so long. I squinted against the brightness, letting it seep into my very being, warming the cold corners of my heart. As I stepped onto the familiar path of my childhood neighborhood, I could hear the sounds of life all around me, children laughing, birds singing, the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Each sound resonated with a sense of belonging, a reminder of the connections that still existed, waiting to be rekindled. I made my way to the park where my family used to gather. I envisioned the laughter of my sister, the warmth of my parents, the love that had filled the air like a palpable force. As I reached the grassy expanse, I saw a group of children playing, their joy infectious. I smiled, the weight of my grief lifting as I absorbed the happiness surrounding me. And then, as if summoned by my thoughts, I caught sight of a familiar face in the distance, my mother, standing beneath the sprawling branches of an old oak tree, her expression one of wistful contemplation. I felt a surge of emotion welling within me, a deep yearning to reconnect, to share the truths I had uncovered. "Mom," I called out, my voice carrying on the breeze. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise, then softened with recognition. "Oh, my dear," she said, her voice trembling as she rushed toward me. We embraced tightly, the warmth of our connection enveloping us like a shield against the past. "I've missed you," I whispered, tears of joy streaming down my face. "I've missed us. We've all been so lost," she replied, her voice choked with emotion. "I've been waiting for you to come back to me." We stood there, holding each other tightly, the bond of love weaving us together once more. In that moment, I felt the shadows of the past begin to fade completely, replaced by a newfound light that illuminated the way forward. "We can face this together," I said, pulling back to look into her eyes. "We can heal as a family." "Yes," she agreed, a smile breaking across her face. "Together." As we walked hand in hand toward the playground, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope flooding my heart. The shadows may always be a part of me, but they no longer held power over my life. I had faced my fears and emerged stronger, armed with the love of my family and the memories of those I had lost. Together, we approached the children, and as they turned to us with bright smiles and eager laughter, I felt an overwhelming rush of joy. The warmth of the sun on my skin was a reminder that life continued, that love could thrive even in the midst of loss. In that moment, I understood the true essence of healing, not the absence of pain, but the ability to carry it alongside the love that would always remain. I would cherish the memories, hold them close, and allow them to guide me forward. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the park, I knew I was ready to embrace my journey, to step into the light, and to live fully, honoring every part of my story. Hope your dreams are filled with fear. Good night.